Welcome, everybody, to UFO Man Live. My name is Tim, or UFO Man, and my co-host is Tom Reed from UFO Expo and Rhiannon Alley. Please welcome them to the panel.
Hey, I made it.
Yes, you did.
You actually made it. We have a very special guest tonight, someone that I've interviewed before, who I consider a friend and a colleague in the phenomenon. Her name is Yvonne Smith. Yvonne is the author of Chosen. Here it is. From the Alien Hybrid Program to the Fate of the Planet, and Coronado, the President, the Secret Service, and Alien Abductions. In these books, Yvonne has taken the time to reveal explicit, dramatic, and unedited transcripts of clients reliving during hypnotic regression their recollections of alien encounters and abductions. Since she felt group therapy would assist in their trauma recovery, Yvonne founded Close Encounter Resource Organization, or CERO, in 1992, which conducts monthly meetings to this day. This year, CERO also reached an important milestone of 31 years in existence. Yvonne is currently working on the manuscript for the CERO anniversary book, along with members of the support group, to be published by the end of 2023, as well as filming the CERO documentary, which will depict the personal side of the alien abduction experience. That's something I'm looking forward to. In addition to maintaining personal contact, one-on-one contact with her clients, she has traveled extensively, lecturing at MIT and several other American universities and conferences, as well as international conferences from Europe to South America. During the 90s, Yvonne traveled extensively with her abduction research colleagues, Bud Hopkins, David Jacobs, PhD, and the late John Mack, MD, as a participant in a lecture series, Legends of UFO Alien Abduction Experiences. Yvonne's many television appearances have included programs such as The Joan Rivers Show, The Montel Williams Show, History Channel, MSNBC, The Discovery Channel, Encounters, Sightings. In addition, well-known radio hosts Art Bell, Paul Harvey, Dr. David Viscott, and George Noory have had Yvonne as their special guest. Yvonne has frequently been a consultant to producers, directors, and actors for film and television programs. Since 2021, she has been hosting Yvonne Smith therapist training sessions for qualified therapists who have expressed interest in incorporating UFO abduction cases into their therapy practice. Please welcome the world-renowned and friend of our channel, Yvonne Smith.
Welcome.
Wow.
That was a great introduction.
That is like the longest intro I think Tim's ever given. He did forget the dating game. He forgot the dating game.
I forgot the dating game. Yeah, I forgot.
Oh my gosh, I'm never going to live that down. How are you doing, Tom?
I'm doing okay. Better than my camera. I can't get the thing to friggin' focus.
Oh.
This is the third podcast I've done today, and I don't know what happened here.
Actually makes you look better.
Fine.
my skin is nice and soft. So my God, what a couple of weeks, man! I'm so glad you came on, Yvonne.
Yeah,
thank you.
I was telling her earlier, the last time that we actually had her on the channel is back when we didn't have the esteemed Tom Reed and the intrepid Rhiannon Alley on the channel. So it's really nice to have a new perspective coming from two new show hosts.
Oh yeah, I've known Yvonne. Well, she's been to my house.
Yes,
Yvonne's been to my house.
I've seen her in your limo, so I know she's
Everybody's been in that limo.
Yeah,
the famous limo.
Yeah, it had definitely is beginning to have leaving a trail behind it, So anyway, Mike Barr was just in it the other day again, and so Rihanna, right? We went and we had UFO Expo in North Carolina. That was a lot of fun. We had, it was kind of cool. I like traveling that thing, Yvonne. I don't have to pay for a flight. I don't gotta switch cars. go through the cavity search, listen to screaming children, 2:00 in the morning while you take a red eye, just so you can get your luggage lost and hopefully get a rental car and get to sleep by 4 so you can get up at 10:00 the next day and try to, be your best. It's just not
Oh,
worth it.
thanks. You're making it seem like a real nightmare. Now I'm not going to
Well,
go.
traveling can be these days. It's ridiculous. It's not like it used to be.
You're right.
Yeah.
I got to say this, over the last couple of days, one of the YouTubers that is currently in our chat room, I got to meet personally, Sightings on 18 Wheels. He came over to my house and we talked UFOs and looked through UFO footage all day long and had a great time. So a shout out to Sightings on 18 Wheels for supporting the channel. Really appreciate it, bro.
Thanks.
That's the first YouTuber I've met. I haven't even met my co-host. That's just weird. But
Gotta get out more.
one of these times, right, Tom?
What's that?
I said one of these times I'll get to meet you in person.
Yeah, you should come to one of the conferences. When the time is right.
Yeah, I want to
you're
come.
be at Roswell, right, Yvonne?
Yeah, we'll be there once again. I can't believe it seemed like we were just there. Can't
I
believe
know.
it.
That's what happens when you. I know. Just time, it's like, just flies, doesn't it? It's like I remember talking to you like on the bench there in the lobby. It seemed like yesterday.
I know.
That's when I had my blood sugar was off. I'm having a real
Right.
problem with my blood sugar. All of a sudden it's like wham! I just get hit with this like boom. Well, you were with me, Rihanna, when I really hit bad, and
That time.
Yvonne, it was like terrible. I was like firing out F-bombs. I was like, I was not myself, right? I mean, you can kind
Yeah,
of
it
tell
was
her, I guess.
really
I don't want
intense.
to go down that road, but yeah,
Like,
it was.
give me the candy bar, like something.
Yeah, man, it's getting bad,
Wow. Is that
Yeah.
when you don't eat, when you're not eating a meal and you get hit with it?
I have not to go down the road of medical, but I've got like a failing pancreas, right? So it doesn't always work and burn food like it should. And if I'm trying to lose weight, right? Because if you lose weight, your diabetes gets better, right? You know how this works. But for me to lose weight, then my blood sugar crashes even worse.
Well,
Right. So, yeah. So for me to, maintain that curvier you, I got to watch what I eat. And if I don't eat very much, then my blood sugar crashes and it just backfires anyway. So,
Well, if you ever need help in that arena, I know a lot about what you're
Yeah.
talking about.
but yeah.
So if I travel with Tom, I have to carry a snack pack.
Oh,
Little
sure.
snacks.
Oh yeah, one of those little McDonald children meals, right?
Yep, all the time.
Whatever,
Make
doesn't
sure
matter.
it's hydrated. Make sure it's got food.
What is with my camera?
A juice box, all that good stuff. Okay, well, Yvonne, what I wanted to ask you was this: what originally got you interested in treating people with PTSD, and then going from regular PTSD cases into studying and researching and doing regressive therapy on people with alien abduction accounts?
Well, sometimes it's a really hard question to answer, but I was just being interviewed this past weekend about it. But the simple answer is that I went to the Whole Life Expo back in the late 80s with my mother, because she was into the metaphysics and she was very psychic, but she would not. It would scare her. She was raised very strict Catholic, so when she would get these feelings or whatever come up, she would try to just shove it aside, put it on the back burner. But she loved going to these types of conferences, and Bud Hopkins was speaking there. And she knew about him. I didn't really know who he was. And we went to see his lecture. And I sat there and I couldn't believe what he was talking about, and showing the slide presentation of drawings that his clients did, before and after, what they remembered before. And then after he regressed them. And we stayed after. My mother and I spoke to him afterwards. He was very, as always, he was very gracious. And from then, I wanted to know more about what he was talking about. But initially, studying hypnotherapy, I wanted to, at that time, work with cancer patients because a very close uncle of mine died at 41 years old from cancer. And I was with him every day in the hospital until he died. And I wish I had had the knowledge of being a hypnotherapist to help him cross over, easier. But so that was my initial plan. But then when I started reading more about UFOs and abduction, and I started attending conferences and meeting people, once I became certified in hypnotherapy, and the people I were meeting, I met at these conferences, they started referring people to me. But after 32 years of doing this, I'm convinced that I was led to this line of work. I don't know if you want to say programmed. I was, I know that whoever the powers that be up there put me on this path. And because I feel like when you're meant to do something, doors will open for you. You don't come across any blocks. It just seemed very easy for me to open my practice, meet people, and my practice just snowballed. I mean, I had regular clients come in for, say, memory enhancement and weight and smoking and all these things. But I then began getting, because I thought, it will be interesting if I do get one or two abduction cases. And then the abduction work just snowballed. And I feel it's because the help was needed. All those people out there, really needed the help, and to find answers about what may have happened to them. So I really feel, I couldn't have said this years ago, or maybe I didn't want to say it because it sounded too woo woo, too crazy. But I feel that I was led down this path to work with all these people. And now 32 years later, I'm still here.
Did you go through that time where you were like in the closet, so to speak, about it? Like in the beginning, were you hesitant to talk about it to certain people? Did you have a
Well,
breakthrough?
to certain people, because I've met people in the field, and of course, Bud Hopkins eventually became my mentor, which was just invaluable to me. And then eventually, as time went on, I started traveling with, as you mentioned, my colleagues, Dr. John Mack, Dr. David Jacob, Bud, and just sharing information with them and asking them questions. I mean, I was, and I look back thinking, my gosh, I was so fortunate. But I didn't say, with people that were not interested in this field, and I knew a lot of people like that. I was married to a corporate lawyer at the time, and we would go out to all these dinner parties and so forth. But down the line, some of these attorneys would go, "Oh, I saw you on television. You were being interviewed," so I couldn't really hide. But if I was asked the question, of course I would talk to them about it, but I wouldn't bring it up.
But your husband wasn't like, "Shh, don't talk about that stuff at the dinner party."
No, he didn't. He just said, as long as you get on television, as long as you represent yourself as a therapist, he had no problem with it. And of course, I couldn't help who saw the interviews, because my gosh, in the 90s, there were so many shows about this subject. Not like it is now. I mean, we had sightings, encounters, and mysterious universe, and on and on. And so it seemed like I was on television every week with some of my CERO members, because they would come into my home and turn my living room into a studio. And, I wish we'd get back to that programming where we talk more about this subject. We have a lot of ghost shows out there, and that's fine. People seem to accept ghosts more than they do UFOs and aliens for whatever reason, but it's all connected. It's all intertwined.
Right. Right. Do you feel that maybe back when you felt like you were being led, do you feel like you got a download of some kind? Because we were talking to somebody recently who said they received a download of information that led them in the direction that they were going. Do you feel that was the case?
It may very well have been. I don't remember anything in my early childhood. As we know, abductions begin usually in early childhood, at least from my research, and when I lecture about it. That part is fact, but I don't remember anything back then. I do, in my early 30s, that's when I went to see Bud's lecture, when I was in my early 30s. And after that, it was like I had to keep reading about it. I had to get more knowledge about this. And I think I spoke about this in my lecture last week, that I don't obsess over anything. I will get bored first before I obsess over anything. And this was the first subject where it was like I needed to find out more. And that's probably when it happened. I don't remember, and a lot of people don't have conscious memory about things, but there are bits and pieces of memory. All I know is when I was still married, my two boys were very young. They were in school. My husband was at work. I was upstairs on my hands and knees scrubbing the bathroom floor, something just really mundane. And all of a sudden I look up and I'm in this white room, huge white room. And I saw tables in this room, people on the tables. And I felt this entity to the left of me and a little bit behind me. I didn't see her, and it was a female, but she was very tall. She had a white robe, and she basically, she went like this with her arm, showing me the room. And what I got from her, because they don't, they talk, they communicate telepathically. I just felt that she said, "You are going to be helping all these people." And then then I was back in my bathroom. I'd rather be in that white room, but I was back in my bathroom. And now when I tell my clients over the years, don't be surprised if you have flashbacks or snapshots of memory that come up, and you could be doing the most mundane thing like I was doing, not even thinking about UFOs, and you'll have a flashback. And that's happened to many people that I work with. So sometime at some point, I must have been taken up on a craft and shown this room and met this tall being who is often described in literature.
Hey, Yvonne, do you have any reservations about talking about other members of your family that might have had an experience? I don't want to mention any names, but I know you're a son and everything. Do you think that this, carried through to your family? I mean, I've never asked you that as long as I've known you.
I know. We talked about chance, right?
You did, yeah. My son, yeah.
But yes, I mean, it does run in families. It's a family affair. It's intergenerational, however we want to describe it.
What about your family, though? Is it fair to say that this carries also with your family, or did it stop with you?
Yeah, I was going to get to that. That's okay. My younger son, who Grant, I have been talking about him with my other cases, but I have his permission.
Yeah.
1 year in Roswell, way before COVID hit, he did come out and talk about his own experiences, what he remembers as a child. And he was about 4 or 5 years old. He would always come into our bedroom, didn't want to sleep in his room. He would tell me that a tall spider would stand in the corner of his room and talk to him. And I still have his drawing when he was 5 years old. Excuse me. And I showed it at my lecture at Contact in the Desert because I have other drawings of children. But before we left for Contact in the Desert, because he was there with me too, I said, "Is it okay if I show your drawing?" He said, "Yes." I said, "Is it okay if I tell everybody it's you?" And he said, "Yes." And he was in the audience with me. And I wanted to share with people that, and I did with my audience, I said, for all the parents out there who are wondering and worrying that something may be happening to your children, that Brent is now 38 years old. He's sitting there in the audience with you. He is a wonderful human being.
He's
His
the best.
lots of friends. He's got a beautiful girlfriend. I said, these children are resilient and they will grow up to be just fine. And I feel that having the experience as a mother, my older son had the experience too, but I don't talk about him because he hasn't given me permission, and now he has a family. And so I respect that. I'm a grandmother. My granddaughter's going to be 4. But, I just wanted parents to know that even though they have this experience, it's not going to go away. It'll be for the rest of their lives. They are still going to grow up to be wonderful human beings. And I had people come up to me afterwards and say, "Oh my gosh, that was so great that you said that." And, as a mother, it just made me feel so good. It was just, I didn't plan on saying it. It wasn't in my notes, but I just felt compelled to tell the audience that, because I think because Brent was there as well. He went through a hard time when he was little. I mean, he would not sleep in his room, and I hear story after story about that. The child comes in the room. I heard one story where the child slept under the parents' bed until it was morning, and then he would go back to his room. I mean, it's just heartbreaking, when you hear about children.
So was Brent? I'm sorry, Tim. Did you have something?
Okay. Yeah, I was just going to say something real quick about the spider that he saw, the tall standing spider. That's corroboration of what happened to me when I was about 4 or 5.
Oh,
When I saw a large spider, it was like 3.5, 4 foot across and about 3.5, 4 foot tall, standing just inside my sister's bedroom door, broad
wow.
daylight, and I saw it, and I backed up and I screamed in my room, and I had to have my parents come up and get me because I could not come down. I was too paranoid. I was too terrified, and I've been waiting to hear if anybody else saw a spider. So when you said that, yes, I can corroborate
So
that.
what kind of spider is it? Is it like a brown recluse or is it like a tarantula?
It's what a 4 or 5-year-old will interpret an alien being to be, because they don't say alien. They don't say, alien being. I mean, the child doesn't, they will describe it as something that they're familiar with. A little ghost or a little doctor, or one father said his son would say, Captain Kirk was in my room. And then he would describe Captain Kirk, but it wasn't Captain Kirk that we know, from Star Trek. It was an alien being. Remember the ending of the movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind, when the door opened on the ship and it was real bright, and here comes this tall, spindly being coming down the ramp. And Brent and I were sitting on the couch watching this, and he was about that age still, maybe 6 at the time. And he moved over real close to me on the couch, and he said, "Mom, that's what I saw in my room."
Wow.
That tall, spindly, because they showed all the little ones, right? around Richard Dreyfuss,
Right.
and we all went in.
Right.
It was this tall spindly, and in fact, it's giving me goosebumps now. I'll never forget how he just came real close to me and said that's what he saw. So thank you for, just confirming that too about you.
Well, you saw the figure that I saw too, which is in Roswell.
Oh my
That's
God.
sort of a spider, I guess.
It could be. Yeah, absolutely.
And I was asking you this because you're my son. You've been to my house. You're familiar with us as a family. And
Mhm.
when Chris started having Chance started having these encounters, I was, like, did I bring this on? Do I blame myself?
Sure.
He saw this white, like, window open up over his bed, and he saw shadow people at the bottom of his bed in another room. I switched his room, and it didn't make a difference. And that one time I talked to you, I think you interviewed him, or at least Lori Wagner did, when we were at the football field,
Right.
in the bleachers. And that was the same night that my legs were levitating off the room and my sweatpants didn't drop, and he screamed, and I ran down the hallway. And so there was this whole thing where I feel guilty about it myself, you start to take some responsibility for it, maybe, or you start to feel responsible.
Mhm.
And so for other parents out there, and families, I mean, there's nothing you can do about it. I just try to be as comforting and as understanding. You let them know that you're not alone, but it's an awful lot for someone who's at the time isn't even 15 years old yet, to make sense of it. And so
So
where does the explanation start and stop? I mean, how much information or how much you think you should tell a child, because you don't want them going to school and say, my dad or my mom says that, where does it start and stop with you
it's,
with regard to a young loved one?
I mean, I remember because that's when I started researching all of this, and then eventually I started going to hypnotherapy college. But I had the realization when Brett started talking about something coming in his room, and we had a lot of paranormal activity in the house at the same time. And like I said, it's all related, it's intertwined. But I tell parents of young children, like 4, 5, 6 years old, listen to what they're saying. Don't ever tell them, "Oh, it's a dream and it won't happen again."
Right.
Because if it were not a dream, if it was something that actually happened, and then you tell them it's not going to happen again,
And then
know,
it does.
and
And
it does. I mean,
how
I'm
young
sorry.
can they experience? How
Oh,
young can they be?
it goes back to early childhood, as early as when they're in a crib.
Because my daughter, we were living in Israel, and she was born in Israel.
Oh,
And I would put her in the crib, and she would just on her stomach, and she would go completely to sleep. I mean, she just slept so hard. And I would come back to my computer to work because I worked at night. And she would scream, wake up screaming bloody murder. I'm telling you, like, her face was red, tears were pouring out of her face. This was a baby, a child, like, 2 years old, that was just on her stomach,
yeah.
and all this sleeping so good. And then all of a sudden it was like this terror,
Hmm.
and she's standing up like, like completely terrified. And I would just, hold her, and then I would put her back down again, put the blanket over her, and everything would be fine. And then it would happen again. And I keep thinking, like, what is going on? How do you go from sleeping like a baby, literally, to waking up with such emotion, I
How
mean,
long
it
in
was like,
between when you put her down and then she was screaming?
I would probably say 30 minutes, maybe an hour.
Did she ever say anything to you? Did she ever?
No, because she was so young, and she would
Right,
just reach out to me with
right.
this. So eventually I ended up putting her in the bed with me, and everything was fine. Oh no, there was this one time where she thought she was pointing at something at the
No.
end of the bed, in my bed. She was completely awake and she was pointing at something. And I just didn't understand what it was.
Exactly. And I tell parents, just listen to your kids, ask them to draw a picture of what they saw or what they were taught, what they're telling you about.
Great idea.
Don't keep asking them question after question, because if you ask them too many questions all at once, they'll shut down. They'll just
Okay.
won't say anything. They'll do something else. So I kind of learned with my son. I would be cooking dinner and he would say something like something came through his window. I mean, and I just try to not attack surprise and kind of, oh, what was it? What did it look like? And that's when he drew. I had asked him to draw the tall spider, so he drew the spider. That was like a 4 or 5-year-old spider drawing, but he drew it with 2 big eyes, which was interesting. And I tell parents to keep a journal. I tell everybody going through this experience, keep a journal, because you won't remember everything. You may look back and say, "Oh my God, I want to look into this or look into that," and it's for the benefit of their child to record everything. Document what they say. If they get up in the middle of the night like mine did all the time, you just have to kind of. It's just a matter of listening to your child and not discounting what they say. And they may, Tom, they may say something in school. I don't think Brent ever did, because they're not going to really talk about something that scares the hell out of them. And they don't.
But why do you think it scares them? I mean, it's indifferent, but we weren't scared.
Well,
We've never really been scared. Just,
yeah.
I would say that it was one of those things that you question whether or not it even happened sometimes, like, oh my God. And then you want to talk to someone about it. And if you don't have someone to talk to, now you bottle it up, and it kind of gets worse, right, for you. But
of
I
course.
wanted to ask you something too. When you're done, I have a question for you.
No, go ahead.
So, being our family went through some of this too. Not much, a lot of people have, but I think there's pros and cons to it, right? Like the cons, I think it's to give an example. If you're watching a scary movie, right, and a branch or someone taps on the window and just wants to scare you, you're going to be startled. You're going to be frightened because A, you don't know what it is. It's
Right.
indifferent. You're not familiar with that. You're already in this state of mind that you're in an abduction experience. You're in a different state. You don't know what's around you. What's going to happen? Am I going to live through it? What's going to happen? Once you have that and you go through it again, you kind of know, well, I'm going to be home in the morning. I'm going to have my chocolate milk and whatever. So the fear factor part of it kind of escapes you, or you're able to understand to a degree what's going to happen or what to expect. So once you get past that, is there pros and cons? Like, do you find that a lot of these children become, heightened abilities? Chance has some heightened abilities and some tests. Is that common? Or do you find that they become, alcoholics, or do they turn to drugs? I know that there's going to be a family element to that that's going to also impact the decisions they make and how far they take it. But what would you say generally, what is the norm on the positive and negative of someone having a very profound experience, or maybe a couple of them, if you will?
Gosh, I don't even know if there's a norm, but people have, not just the children, but the parents. I mean, people who, like yourself and many other people, started in childhood, follows the person throughout their life. I mean, before they knew what it was, people would turn to alcohol, drinking before so they could go to sleep. Or, unfortunately, all the drugs we have now, and smokers, a lot of smokers. I remember Bud saying during his, excuse me, got allergies, during his support group meetings, he said the ashtrays would be overflowing because people, it's just like, I guess it's just a nervous habit. But I know many clients of mine have turned to alcohol, and they can't sleep at night. They'll sleep with the TV on, the radio on, lights on. They're afraid of the night. The children seem like they're born more and more very gifted. They're psychic. They have special abilities. And I remember Chance with his abilities. Brent, when he was younger, when he was in elementary school, he was very psychic. He would try to explain it, and he would say, "Mom, it's like I have a movie going through my head." I guess as he would see things or visions or whatever. As he got older, more like in junior high school, it wasn't. It's almost like it wasn't as strong. And I think too, they're older. Their friends are important. They get into sport.
Yeah, it kind of fades, right? A little bit.
Kind of fades. But I remember he would see spirits, and not alien beings, but spirits. He saw a lady with a bun in a,
You think it opens up that paranormal world for us? What about you, Tim? You had an experience.
so.
Do you find that does it open up another level? Would you call it a level, Yvonne?
I think so. I think that the paranormal reality is a different dimension that's connected with ours, our living reality, our 3D world, to where we actually, what we see here, maybe with alien life. Think of it this way. The easiest way for me to explain this is transmedium technology. Transmedium, right? Craft that can move from water to air to space. But what about them using the same technology to move through walls, through ceilings, different dimensions?
Mm-hmm.
So if that's the case, then yes, I believe that they are connected to the paranormal reality because they're moving through that dimension.
Okay, so if
And they're interacting.
Moves you through a dimension, now you've opened up that whole world for other dimensional life forms or spirits or what have you.
Right, exactly.
What would you? How would you word that, Yvonne?
I'm sorry. How would I?
Like Tim makes a good point. Once you've been through a dimensional type of an experience yourself, if it's through a wall or what have you have to be in a different place in a spirit type. Your body, I don't even know if your body actually goes through it. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But if you have an account or an experience that is dimensional, now you've opened up this other world because you've actually been there. You've been part of that world.
I think that's part of it. Why many people, including my family, we had, like I said, paranormal activity throughout the house.
Me too.
Yeah, I mean, it was running rampant when my boys were little. It was just,
And that fades out too, you think?
It did, yeah, for a while, and then I started having meetings, the CERO meetings in my home. But you imagine all the energy that was there in the house.
Yeah, let's just add to it now. Yeah,
exactly.
Right.
That's what made my husband not so happy with it, and the fact that that Brent was having experiences. I mean, it's like he almost turned to me like saying, "It's because of your work." And these experiences are real hard on relationships.
Oh yeah.
Really hard. One person wants to talk about it and the other person doesn't because it's like, it'll make it too real. They don't want to hear about it. So how do you I could not go home and not be able to talk to my spouse about my work. I mean, whoever I ever get together with, they're going to have to understand what I do.
See, that's where we were lucky, because my mother had an experience in 1954, and my grandmother was there, my brother was there, so we were fortunate. So maybe it wasn't as hard on me as on many other people, even though it was, but it wasn't, kind of thing. Yeah.
My parents were very open. My mom and dad, we always talked about ghosts and, things like that, because my mom was psychic and, but she never would say it. And even my grandmother, we would talk about things. So when I started doing my work and I started doing television and things like that,
Yeah.
my mom would call all of the family, all of her friends. Yvonne's going to be on, sightings or whatever. So they were really wonderful in fact, my mother had the Look magazine article about Betty and Barney Hill when I came home from school one day. She goes, look at these people. They said they went up on a spaceship, so it was always very open. It's just that when I was married, and I can understand it always with the father, with the husband, it's like he can't protect. How is he going to protect his family? There is no way to protect the family because it's going to happen no matter what. I had a client who would actually sleep with his 7-year-old daughter to protect her.
Comfort. Yeah.
And I had to be honest and say, I know you want to do this and protect her, of course, but I didn't want him to be surprised when it did happen. I said, because it's going to happen. They're going to switch him off. He's not going to remember anything. And if they want to take her, they'll take her. So,
Right.
I don't wanna,
if I can, I'm sorry. I just want to jump in here. One more thing. And this is just keying on what you're talking about. I know I talk to a lot of people about the shadows in the house, the noises, that kind of thing. Rihanna and a lot of people. I went to Coral Castle. We did an investigation and stuff, and I really was interested in that because that part of it's been constant ever since this took place. And I know Tim talks about it as well, and so does Rihanna. But here's the key thing, though: nobody I talk to who's had an experience that followed an abduction type of thing ever talks about it being dark. Some people are like, I have this feeling in the house. It's creepy. I can't take it. I need to clean it. That kind of thing. Those who have had an experience like I did, pretty much just say, like, once a couple of people in the chat just popped up and said the same thing, that they have experiences and they have shadow people and that kind of thing. But it was I never felt sick.
like
I never
evil,
felt uncomfortable.
dark, evil.
Yeah, like I speak to Crystal Madison, the Witch of Sleepy Hollow, a lot. She's a pretty good friend of mine, and and she will say, well, you need to do this to clean a room, rosemary and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, I never really feel I have to do that. They don't take up much space,
Yeah.
So it's kind of strange that the type of, I guess I know I'm rambling here, but it's the type of spiritual connection and or dimensional company that surrounds you following a UFO experience or an abduction that seems to be different than what many people experience.
Yeah,
I have got
too. I didn't feel it was something evil or dark. I've had potential clients contact me and say that they have this, and they feel very afraid, and they feel it's not not a positive thing, and they feel like some of them have attachments, which is not a good thing. And I know they're not experiencing an abduction experience. They're not dealing with alien beings, and I tell them
it's darker, right? It's much darker.
Oh yeah, they need to
so you can tell the difference between right. That's where I'm going with this. So you do see a pattern there.
Oh yeah, I mean, I could, because the alien beings, as much as they frighten people and what they do, and they do it in secret, and they're probing and they're doing all these things, I have never felt in all my years that they were evil. I mean, they have an agenda, and they're carrying out that agenda. And I think that agenda definitely involves the hybridization program. I mean, I think that's central to what they're doing. So, but I never felt that, if I felt at all, especially in the beginning when my kids were small, that what abduction was, if it was evil, I would have never gone into this work, because I don't want to touch demonic. I don't want to touch any of that. That really frightens me. I don't want to open that door for anything. And so I never felt that. And I've been doing this 32 years. And, I just relieve people from their PTSD, because it's understandable. They don't know what's happening to them, especially way back when there was nothing. There was no nothing on, we didn't have internet, years ago, and there wasn't nothing that they could base what they went through. And then of course they don't want to talk to anybody because it sounds so crazy. And that's why I founded the support group 31 years ago, because they were leaving my office and not able to talk to anybody. But they were
I was going to ask, does your support group also work with spouses that are unable to handle the phenomenon, even though they're aware of it or had been privy to it up close? I have a very good friend in the chat, or he was in the chat earlier, whose other half has seen something with him up close, the craft, okay? Very close. And she can't wrap her head around it. So he won't be able to appear on our show to talk about his encounters because he's afraid of his wife overreacting and causing an issue. So my point is, does your group CERO help people like that who know the reality of the phenomenon but are unable to wrap their head around it?
We've always invited the spouse, the significant other, always, family members who are not so sure about this and, are wondering, oh, who are these strange people that you're going to a meeting every month? And I've always opened it up to, like I said, the spouses, but some of them have come over the years, but others, many of them don't want to have anything to do with it. They're not comfortable even talking about it. And it's a very slow process for them, some of these people, to come around. Well, once they've met me, and the time that they have come around and met the group is during our December Christmas party, because it's not a meeting, we're having dinner and we're gift exchange, and then they realize, wow, these people are nice people, and we're fun people, and so that's kind of like, it's an icebreaker, where, because the spouse, the wife, or the husband, they don't want to come by themselves. Some of them do, but that works too. But to get them at a meeting, I mean, it just, like as it is, just a slow process, and it's just believe me, I went through it. I mean, I got so obsessed with this that it didn't do my marriage very much good, and
From what I understand from my friend, she believes that if she doesn't talk about it and she doesn't focus on the phenomenon, it'll just go away.
It won't. I mean,
Right.
I'm sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
I've had many people, the majority of people, put this on the back burner for many years, and then their children will start saying something strange or something that they think, oh my God, that sounds like me when I was little. Then they come to me and say, I've got to find out what happened so that, I could help my children. And then they'll start going through their sessions. But it just, I had another point I was going to make about that too. When you put it on the back burner, it doesn't stay there forever. The subconscious will start bringing up, bubbling up to the surface, bits and pieces of memory. And and this phenomenon doesn't just go away. So I have to be honest with people when, when they think that, and I say, that's not how this works. But they have to be ready to look into it, because once information comes forward, I use the analogy, once the toothpaste comes out of the tube, we can't put it back in. It's just like time to deal with it, and they have to be ready. the situation in their lives. I mean, they can't be going through a big stressor like divorce or a marriage or selling a house. You know, who doesn't have stress these days?
Right.
So I just tell them, I send out my information, and then I say, let me know when you're ready. Some of them come right away, and then others will kind of wait, kind of sit on it for a while, which is understandable. So, I just have to tell your friend it doesn't work that way. I'm sorry,
Right.
Anna.
Oh no, it's okay. The light bulb is still going off in my head. I'm like, I gotta say it before I forget it. Some timers, if there was any movie that you could say is pretty right on with all of this, what movie would that be?
Oh, I would have to say it was I don't know if you all remember, it was the miniseries on CBS based on Bud Hopkins' book Intruders. Now, Deb Cobble,
I saw it.
that's about her. She's in CERO. I know her very well. But that miniseries really covered a lot of it, especially about the hybridization program. I mean, there was like a little bit of everything in their crop circles and all that, but it was, the description and the way the alien beings looked, and how the one woman was just so torn apart and traumatized when she lost her baby.
Right.
And it was just the emotional part of it, and then the just how they portrayed everything. I think that was very close to what actually happens.
Okay. Thank
Tom?
Okay, I don't normally talk about this, but pretty much everything that I've ever discussed has been, just conscious memory over the years of talking with my family and my brother, and Yvonne came to the house and she's like, "Would you like to try a little regression type of thing?" So my memory and what I talk about is all clear conscious memory, but there are sometimes you want to focus on something and see if you can get to the bottom of a particular thing. And I don't know, I guess I wasn't cooperating very well, but I was laying there, I guess, for a while. I saw some of the footage later and talked to everybody later, and I was trying to focus on a particular thing. I remember this white, like a white sheet, and I remember shadow figures and that kind of thing. And I remember my back hurting or something. I was trying to focus on that a little bit. And so Yvonne was very patient. I guess I was laying there, but what I remember what happened to me was that I could hear the lawnmowers out front, and I could hear the attention deficit children screaming in the street, and the occasional garbage truck. And I was really trying to work here, and then all of a sudden, it was like I was seeing a very faded image, and I could hear her voice a little bit, but I wasn't focused on her voice. I was focused on the image because I was trying to get it more clear. And I guess she was trying to say, "Tom, what are you seeing?" or whatever afterwards. But I wasn't really hearing that, although it was just kind of in the background.
Mm-hmm.
And then I remembered and I saw this clear picture of what I wish I didn't ever see or feel. But at the same time, I'm glad I have it now. But I remember like this boiling hot water going through my arms. Remember that? My arms and back. And it was really like hot, blistering hot water going through my shoulders and everything. And this clear type of like a shower curtain type of thing with figures on the other side. And it was like I got to a certain point and I was there. I mean, I was actually like there. And I think she was trying to ask me what was going on and talking to me, but I don't really remember that. I just remember like sitting here talking to you guys. It was almost that clear. Then my mind goes back and repeats the same image, repeats the same thing. And every time it's like a windshield wiper. Every time I saw it, it was like the wiper came and cleaned it more, until I could see out the windshield. And then all of a sudden I felt the pain. And Yvonne took me right out of it. She was like, Tom, go to that friggin' place or whatever you said to me. And I came out and I was like, I couldn't even speak. Do you remember that? I was like, it it was so impactful. But for the longest time, I couldn't go under. But maybe I
Yeah.
wasn't even know it. But
Oh
all
yeah.
of a
I mean,
sudden, everything that I heard just kind of faded out. This image came to me
yeah.
with a slight voice of you in the background. And then every time I resaw the same 5 seconds or 10 seconds, it was like being cleaned by the windshield wiper.
I tell people 1 or 2 sessions is not going to do it, because the first time is very, very difficult. That's the first session. We've never worked together. Most people have never been hypnotized. And then we're going into the unknown. So there's a lot of different factors there. I always dispel the myths about hypnosis. You're not going to be blacked out or unconscious or anything like that. They're going to remember, just like Tom was describing. Uh, and people, they have all these ideas that how they're going to feel, but I tell them, you're probably not going to feel like you're hypnotized, because you're going to be lying there. Oh my God, I could just get up off this couch and walk out the door. That's how the feeling they have. And they say, well, you can, because you still have free will, but you've given me permission to be your facilitator and hypnotize you and try to make sense of something that may have happened to you. And so the more people come and they go through the regressions, they become conditioned to the feeling, to my voice, they will relive the experience, but I use different techniques that they don't necessarily have to experience the fear or the pain. What's important is get the information forward, to just bring it forward onto a conscious level. And then we discuss it. We have the debriefing afterwards. That's why I set aside 2 hours for every session, because I need the time to sit with the person, take notes. Then we go through the hypnosis. I never know how long that's going to be. And then at the end, bring them out and we talk about it. Let the person kind of relax, before they get going. I mean, did a session this past weekend. It was for, it was one of my CERO members for the documentary, and she was in hypnosis for an hour and a half. And that's the longest I had worked with somebody, but she wanted to go through about 5 different events. And because she was going to be moving out of the country and she wanted this to be in person with me, I said, if you need to come out at any point, you let me know, because they can say that. And towards the very end, we were only going to have one more experience left, and she did come out. She asked, can I come out? She was tired. So it just, everybody's very different. Everyone's very different. I can't, people will go, how many sessions will it take? I don't know. Right. It's going to take more than one or two.
The individual.
Yeah.
Does it?
One more, if you don't mind me, Tim, one thing. Okay.
That's fine.
So something else that, for those, listening, for me anyway, your alarm clock goes off, right? And you go, I'm just going to lay in bed for that extra 10 minutes. I just got to get 10 more minutes. You have the free will to get up.
Yeah.
But you're still having this dream, right?
Yeah.
And it's in your head. You're still seeing this, but you should get up, but you remain in bed. And then you think it's only 10 minutes, but now it's 9:30, not 8:15 anymore. And that was kind of what it was like for me. But unfortunately for Yvonne, she was very patient because a lot of time had gone by. But to me, it was like momentarily, it was very strange. So go ahead, buddy.
That's all a time distortion. People will go, I thought it was only 10 minutes. And the whole, 45 minutes have gone by, and they were just amazed at it. And also there's some amnesia that happens within hypnosis, depending on how deep someone goes. They won't remember everything that they said or I said, but I record the session. So when they listen to them, I was amazed at some people. Oh my God, did I say that? Oh my God, I don't remember. But it's obviously, they did it because it's on the tape. So I never know what's going to happen.
Okay, I have 2 questions for you, Yvonne. One is from Snoopy Sin 100. Just wondering, is part of the treatments hypnotic suggestion to relieve tensions people may have?
What I do is I I relieve the symptoms of PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, whether it's abduction, whether it's a terrible car accident, a sexual, what do you call it, criminal act, like a rape. I'm sorry, I'm getting tired, so I'm trying to get my words. No matter what trauma we go through, the symptoms are the same. Even an alien abduction, they can't sleep, they're having recurring dreams or nightmares, they're hyper vigilant, something's going to happen, they can't drive down a particular road, or they can't pass by a particular room or go down the basement. I mean, I relieve the person of those symptoms so that they can get on with their life. They've got to work, take care of a family. We all pay bills. They're not, alien beings aren't going to pay our bills for us. So yes, I mean, the hypnotherapy is very, very effective in relieving these symptoms.
Okay, the other question I have for you is this. I know people that have offered me regressive hypnotherapy treatment, but virtually. Do you recommend that or not?
For years, I did want to do it. I avoided it. This was back when Skype started, but when COVID hit, that changed our lives, and we had to reinvent ourselves. I mean, my office closed, but we were all in quarantine, but abductions didn't stop. PTSD didn't stop. So I am now doing the sessions, the first consultations and sessions on Zoom. I've been doing it now, 2.5 years. They've been working very well. I do them all the time, but I require it's a support person or safeguard where, say, you come to me for you want to do a Zoom session. So I tell you, I need someone that you trust, that you feel comfortable with. They don't have to be in the room with you, but close by, where we exchange cell phone numbers, and if we lose connection, then I'm going to call your person and say, okay, go in there and tap him on the forehead and tell him this and this and that. It hasn't happened yet, but it's just a safeguard for me and for the person.
So you have safety protocols. Good.
Oh, definitely, you have to. And of course, I still have my office where people will come and see me on the weekends. And then, of course, it's always better to be there in person. But I'm able to reach out to so many people now that are located outside of Southern California and in other countries as well.
Right. I've been offered regression by Terry Lovelace, Esquire.
Oh,
virtually.
He's very, of course, as you know, very trustworthy. He's very empathetic. He would be very, I think he would do a good job because of what he's been through. So let me know how it goes, if you don't mind. I mean, that would be.
I will.
Then I'm going to find out if he will be taking my course that I'm doing the end of July. If your viewers want to find out more about it, it's on my website.
Okay. Can you give the address of your website?
It's Hypnotherapist Yvonne Smith .com.
There you go. Hypnotherapist YvonneSmith.com. Please go there and check out her site and her content.
Can you put that in a trailer on the bottom, like a stream, like one of those?
Yeah, hold on a second here.
All right.
I will. Yep.
So what about you, Rihanna? Do you believe that there's a reason that you're so connected to this topic? Right? I mean, you know what I mean.
Well, I used to sleepwalk when I was a child. I would say like around 8 years old. And I did talk with and I would go outside. And I don't remember doing that. maybe a couple times I remember my mom saying, telling me what I did, that I walked outside. I unlocked the door and walked outside.
Wow.
And then I had a psychic reading by somebody, and I can't remember who it was. And she said, without even knowing me, she says, I see woods that, when you were young, maybe you were communicating with something at a fence at where woods are. And it almost described basically the house that I grew up in. We had a
Interesting.
large yard. And since that time, I always felt like somebody's watching me from the woods, always, up until the point where I left home. So
Sure.
I
I've heard
never
that a
felt
lot.
like I had any communication, but I always felt like there was something watching me. And
Yeah.
then I had an instance where I was married to my previous husband, and my grandfather was in the hospital and he was in ICU, and he called all of us in to say goodbye. He's like, I'm dying. You guys come say goodbye. He was very coherent, very jovial, like, nice meeting you. I love you. See you whenever, type of thing, type of goodbye. And I was like, that's weird. He's in ICU. He says he's dying. He's not going to be here tomorrow. And I'm like, no, granddaddy, you're going to be here tomorrow. I'll see you tomorrow. Okay. Bye. And then that night, I kept thinking to myself, well, I get a sign if something happens to him. How will I know if he dies in the middle of the night? Let's just say. Well, my dog and my cat and my husband at the time, we were all sleeping in the bed together because one big happy family. 5 o'clock in the morning, there was 3 knocks on the window. And it was we all freaked out. The cat heard it, the dog heard it. We all stood up in bed, and I'm like, go find out what that is. So my dog went out and ran around the house. There was nobody there. The cat was like going crazy. My husband at the time turned on all the lights, and he's like, Rihanna, there's nothing there. And it was so distinct and loud on the window. And guess what? This is wild, okay? The next morning, I asked the nurse, because his kidneys had started failing. They called us at 7 o'clock in the morning to go to the hospital. He was on his way out. I get there and I asked the nurse, I said, what time did his kidneys start failing? It was 5 in the morning. It was
Same time.
exactly the time we had the 3 knocks, and my husband couldn't explain it. He's like, this is the weirdest thing. You can't, 3 huge, loud, distinct knocks. And everybody heard it, the cat, the dog.
Do you know what window it was?
It was my bedroom window.
Where you were sleeping?
Correct.
Yeah, he was just coming by to say bye to you. I had the 3 knocks in my house.
Really?
Distinct. They were on the wall. When you knock on the wall, I mean, the wall of my office, and my ex-fiance was there. 3 distinct knocks, but that wasn't the only time that happened. So that's very common, Rihanna. That's very common. And I think it's so comforting that he came by to say goodbye, because I've heard other stories like that. I've experienced things like that. So, but thank you for sharing that. And I'm sorry, Tim, what time are we ending? Because I have to go pick up my dog.
All right. Can I say one last thing? One last thing before you go, Yvonne? Because this is crazy, and everybody listening is not going to friggin' believe it if you're not on the show, okay? So now you might remember the ladybugs. Sliding door. The ladybugs on my sliding door.
Yes.
No one would believe this. So Yvonne, Lori Wagner, and I were trying to do this hypnotic, dig into this one particular thing. And I woke up and I was just like, I think I was on a sweat, right? I mean, you were like, you okay? And I was like, oh my gosh, trying to catch my breath. And the entire moment to me was like so real and intense that I don't know if I caused this or something came together, but we came down the staircase in my house where I live now, went around the corner to my kitchen, and it was dark downstairs. And I'm like, why is it so dark? And we walked by my double sliding door in my kitchenette area, and you couldn't see out of it anymore, yet it was still like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm like, what's blocking the window? And so I walked up to the window, and when I walked up to it, all these ladybugs just kind of ran off the window. It was caked with ladybugs. There was not a speck of light coming through that window.
Wow.
And I've never in my life, of course, never seen or had anything like that happen to me before. And it was when this woman was in my house. So, but was the regression cause something like that? So we're talking about glass, and we're talking about the knocks. I came down, and it was like a different world. It was like I came down to a dark house in the middle of the day, covered with ladybugs.
But think about it. At least they were cute little ladybugs and not the flies that they presented in Amityville.
Or cockroaches. Right.
Oh my God.
What? Have you ever heard, has that ever happened to anyone before where they've had, I mean, that was the strangest
thing. I
thing.
remember about, ladybugs per se, but that I would say that was on a paranormal level, and whatever reason the ladybugs were there, maybe to give you a message, or I still don't see that as anything negative.
No, but you were here. You saw it yourself.
I was there. I saw it.
And there was no light. There was nothing. Right. It was a blanket of black, and they all just left together.
It may have been, like I said, just a little message like what Rihanna got from your dad or your grandpa.
It was my grandfather. And another time I had butterflies surrounding me in a park. I was walking with somebody, and butterflies were just like everywhere.
And sometimes the deceased, or loved ones come in a form of a butterfly or a little bird or things like that. I mean, just like, oh my God, we could be on this subject, forever. There's just so many. I find it comforting though when I have a message from a loved one, like I did with my mother, because I live in her house now. So, but anyway, is it okay, Tim, if I sign off?
Yes, it is. And we want to, what's wrong with my camera? We want to thank, we want to thank you very much, Yvonne, for coming on and sharing your gracious amount of time with us. So thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. And it was nice meeting you, Brianna. Email me if you have any questions. Just you're welcome to email me. And Tom, we'll see each other in Roswell. Yay!
Can't hear you, Tom.
Yeah, he's off.
Your mic is off, Tom.
Oh, sorry, Cattle Baron. I'll see you, Cattle Baron.
I want to go to Cattle Baron too. That sounds great.
Well, plenty of room.
They
had a great buffet, a great salad buffet. Absolutely. Yvonne, thanks so much.
That's my favorite restaurant in Roswell. That's the only place I go. So we'll have a glass of wine, Tom.
Sounds good to me. I'll be there. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
See you soon. Bye.
Love you.
Thanks, Yvonne.
Bye-bye.
So, guys.
What?
Are you going to hang by here? Or what?
She's still here. She wants to get off, and she's like, what's going on?
No, she can go. Anyways, I do have a clip I want to play with you guys, and this is important because Tom and Mike Barra were recently on Jesse Waters' Fox Primetime. So it was in regards to the Las Vegas UFO event.
Can I say something before you play it?
Sure.
Okay. Before you play it, Tim, I want you to think about this for a minute. I need your input here. So just before we went on, well, first of all, we were having some beers. Rada was there, and I got the call. Remember, you were there, and so we had to find a place to go. We had like 10 minutes by the time we got it all set up. But the point that where I want to go with this is that those who saw the Las Vegas clip, you'll see that the police who have it on their cam, their body cam, you can see that they're out of the vehicles, and you can see that they're out at the person's home, correct?
Right.
And you can see the parked police cars, right? I think there's two of them, two SUVs, right? So think about this for a minute. They're at the person's house when the body cam gets the footage, correct or not correct?
one cop is, not the cops that came later to investigate what happened. After the kid called 911, that's when the cops came.
Right. And you see the cop there at the house in the clip, right?
Right. So what you're trying to say, did the light fall after whatever crashed in the backyard?
Because I was told that it was 38 minutes it took for the police to show up. And if those police, and I was told this just before I went on, that the police officer's body cam who picked that up was at the person's house, because you can hear him on other clips talking to the kids or family.
Right.
That happened after, like 40 minutes after they got there. So,
Right.
so what the kids or the family are talking about with with respect to the back of the home
Was something different. Yes.
well, it also means that there's more here than people are making the general public aware of.
Right. Because that light did occur after the cops
Yeah,
got there, which
right,
would make the timeline incorrect for the object that was seen, because the object that was seen
right.
may have been the green bolide meteor, which is actually what I thought it was as well. I agree with Mike Barra. The thing is the object they saw, they didn't even describe as green. They described it as white, or an object with multiple lights.
hmm
And then when it hit the ground, they're assuming that the Ring camera footage is exactly what hit the ground. It may have been that sky burst of the bolide. We don't
And
know.
was that sound from what the police picked up, or was it prior?
Right. I don't know that. See, they
Me
don't
neither. I didn't know
specify.
either. So I was like, I can't rule this out yet, because if the
There's
police
questions.
officer's body cam picked this up 40 minutes afterwards, that means there was a lot more activity than they want you to believe. Whereas Mike was like, well, that's a meteor. But what was he referring to, what happened afterward? Or was he referring to what happened before? Because this whole thing, it's kind of like there's 45 minutes of stuff going on here, and they just kind of jumbled it as if it's all one moment.
Well, the thing that got me was this: when George Knapp said that there was a security camera in the backyard, okay, focused on that back gravel lot with all that heavy equipment.
With the tractors.
Yeah, with the front end loaders and the forklift and all that, right? And when the object came down, the camera went out when it hit. Tom, can't hear you again.
I know you can. I'm just talking to myself.
But
I'm just
Tim,
agreeing.
Okay.
what camera was filming the creature or whatever in the tractor?
No, that was his cell phone. That what their cell phones. That wasn't the security camera, because the security camera came back up 2 minutes later, they said. The problem with that is 2 minutes time, right, doesn't correspond with the length of time that they were filming those creatures and reacting in the yard.
Okay, so what do you think? So is it safe to say then, Tim, that something happened?
Yes.
There was the boom first, because I'd like to see a timestamp on that Ring camera.
Yes, same here.
And then they call. The dispatcher must have already been getting other calls, because of the way she handled that call. She didn't immediately dismiss it. She was open to it and almost understood that these people were being truthful in what they were retelling.
Right.
And so that was interesting in itself, when normally it would have been like, hey, we'll send a paddy wagon for you, right? So she was pretty in tune with that. So the beginning part of this holds makes sense. And then the police are dispatched. They're talking to the families, and they're probably not sure what to make of it. And then his body cam footage picks up this picture or video of this meteor, what seemingly is a meteor, flying across the sky. And it's not coming down like this. It's going this way. So that would have happened 40 minutes afterward. Is that correct, Tim? You think?
Yes, I think so.
There were multiple things happening over a 40-minute period.
Yeah, and did you realize that both of the people two of his brothers that went into the backyard went in fully armed? They had guns in their hands or in a holster, and they refused to use them.
Do you think that originally they might have thought it was a burglar in the back?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay. So we're in agreement then. The body cam footage is 38 to 40 minutes after the original 911 call.
I would agree. Yeah.
All right. That's
Well,
why I said what I did on the show.
I think that people should watch the clip of Mike Barra and Tom Reed on Jesse Waters' Primetime Fox News channel. It's a very good clip, and since we just talked it through, I'm not going to play it, but there is something I am going to play.
No, let's play it. I want to play it. Can we do that?
Okay. All right. Here it is.
All right.
Alien incidents have been reported for decades. My next guest, Tom Reed, says he encountered a UFO in the Berkshire Mountains back in '69. It's called the Reed Incident, and it's the first UFO incident archived to be historically true. Joining me now is Tom Reed, alongside former aerospace engineer and author Mike Barra. All right, before we get to your story, I want to just ask Mike, tell us your interpretation of this Las Vegas incident.
Well, it's pretty interesting. That green light strikes me as what they call a bolide or a meteor that is, like a shooting star that's very low. And these things, they can airburst, they can explode. So that would account for the sound. If it hit the ground, and there are some people that say the ground actually shook, then what makes me curious is why hasn't anybody gone out to the site? Why haven't any even geologists gone out there and retrieved pieces of the thing? Because there will be pieces left. And then the other videos that have been shown of what happened in the backyard, I don't know if we're going to get to that, but that is a little bit creepy. So to me, I think this is probably a meteor, but did something else happen? And it might not be because of just all the other weirdness around it.
We got a general response from
Okay, and then Tom, so then how would you explain the 10-foot-tall green guy that was breathing with big feet and a flat head?
Well, I don't know if we have enough information to really make a call on that, but we have a genuine response from the individuals involved. We got the officer's body cam footage.
Yeah.
That also verified a lot. We've got the 911 operators who also seemed to be very in tune with what was happening. It wasn't dismissed. And so when you you couple this with the footage you're showing right now, I don't think you can deny that something took place, something happened.
Were there any similarities between this and what you encountered in '69?
Well, we did see a sphere, a white light similar to that. Well, there was three objects. There was also what I refer to as a disc-shaped object, which looked like a turtle shell, and that hovered quietly. But we didn't encounter beings, if you will, like these people did. We were kind of in awe and kind of fixated or frozen, if you will, onto the object we saw, which I believe from what I saw earlier, they felt the same way. They were kind of frozen too and just kind of captivated or stared at the being, if you will. So there are some similarities. I think that the behavior was very similar to how we felt, if that helps.
And Mike, you're now hearing people coming forward, our journalist friend, Mike, who says 12 alien spacecraft, U.S. government's in possession of. What kind of development is this?
It could be very important, but the thing is that we've heard these stories for a long time. I mean, all the way back to the Cape Girardeau crash in 1942, and of course Roswell and these other incidents. So I think the bigger question is not so much do they have these craft and do they have these captives or these bodies. The question is, what have you been doing with them for 75 years? What have you been doing with them for 85 years? Yeah. And some of these videos you're showing right now that we're seeing here on the screen, these could be developments, our own secret space program stuff that we're developing. And I really do think that, if we've had this technology for a long time, we've probably learned an awful lot about it. And I suspect this is going to continue to accelerate. We're going to continue to have more incidents. We're going to have more visitations. And, I just think things are going to get really weird and stay really weird for quite a while.
Things are definitely going to stay weird with everything going on. I like how you guys both have healthy skepticism but are also very cynical about the U.S. government. That's the perfect posture for this type of activity. Guys, have a great weekend. Thank you very much, and stay safe out there.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay, so that is the recent Tom Reed appearance on mainstream media. Congratulations, Tom. It was very well done.
So that meteor, do you believe that was a meteor? Did you see it look like it was tumbling a little bit? Or
yes, and it kind of looked like it lost a little bit of its substance as it was going down, like pieces were breaking off.
Did it look to you like it was going almost like this, or was it coming into the planet Earth like that?
I think it was coming down straight, and then at one point it kind of veered off and then dropped. That's the way it looked.
Because if you're looking at the homes, it looks like it just goes like this. A meteor would enter the atmosphere like that. It would come straight in, right?
Well, it depends on the angle of its trajectory when it enters.
Of course. But I mean, when it comes in, I mean, it just, to me, I don't know. I don't know if I just think that's a meteor. I mean, it looked like it was tumbling. At one point, it looked like it was flat, and then it's like something was burning off of it, maybe. But
so
I don't know.
I don't know.
Where's the scientists? Where's the government taking samples of it?
And where did it land? Where did that piece go?
Where did it land?
Well, according to the kid, there was a circle imprint in that back.
That was before. That's the point. That circle imprint was before that was caught on the body cam.
Yeah, so nobody knows where that went. Maybe that was something that went along with that craft. You know, maybe it was looking for the one that landed in that backyard.
There was a circle type of thing in his backyard, right, Tim? Like it was in the sand, I guess. It wasn't very deep. It wasn't, almost as if it had a controlled crash.
Right.
And then you've got this piece shooting off into nowhere almost 40 minutes or so, maybe 45 minutes after that, if what we're hearing is correct as far as the time span.
Right.
And yet no one's talking about what happened to that. That was a pretty residential area. That had to land somewhere fairly close.
But
unless it didn't land.
Just burned up. That's true. Or just took off, you know.
But don't you think they would like close the streets or like tape everything up? Like
exactly.
Nobody could go in there and then just start taking samples of where that little circle.
If everybody saw it, a lot of people don't see it when it goes over. And maybe it was just those cops and that family.
Well, that's enough to dispatch at least an officer to say, look, it should be here. There's additional cameras for the city and township where they could have said, you know, was it seen here? Was it seen there?
Get a photographer.
It just seems to me like we're kind of focusing on the kid's backyard or the family's backyard.
Right.
But we're not looking at what was that and where did that go?
Right.
Some high strange.
Human data says the craft looked like it was coming down in a swirl motion.
It was tumbling in some way. Mm-hmm. I agree with it.
The other thing I was going to say is we do have a short clip, 2 minutes, 57 seconds, showing what was zoomed in on with the mother's cell phone camera to be the alien. So here we go.
Okay.
Y es muy callado.
Alcalde, que dije
que la
voto
firma de
Fernández.
que la vez que te la acabas.
Fernández, que regalá.
A mí dicen pálpale, hay que te sale con camisas. Pero llevan usas, llevan un
He vuelta con silus, Alcalde, vuelta casi cayó con dos silus.
Ni cómplice, pero pral. Si no te pares y con la.
Hora me que cantis París le gallengue a la chorsi, hora. Tosi. ¡Ay! ¡Permisar!
Déjale esta clase, déjale esta clase.
Calmungarela, me cansiles var eso. Kailo, cherro, que chidi. Kailo, cherro.
Elige acá.
Kailo.
Adentro, calalo.
Uy, chetal.
Calalo.
Chidi cao.
Venga, dentro, acabado.
Alcalde, que sí, varón.
Agladel, varón.
Chidi cao.
Varón cayó, silibri, acá cabare. Una acá cabare, agladel.
Kai, cherro.
Adentro, diles.
Firmizar, sale.
Cocharilo que te camiona, Andrelo.
Kai, firmizar, firmizar. Que sabes.
Anglaudel te
Pero firmizar, porque no me cherro, que canundaré la me.
Diles, eso lo son amigos, estoy viendo para acá.
Kai,
Ande el camión, lo conchadica del camión. Segundo, de izquierda para acá, de cables.
Kai, cherro, chidica Bangladel.
Anglaudel, concha, cortelo, concha, lo jalarlo, que te acordó. O sea, picucharico, se adolo.
Chidica Bangladel, que
Vaya, me dígale completico.
Oye, di cables.
Kai,
cable.
Kai.
Cortelo, de que acá, dile que acá callale, ahí yo muy pelón, sí, pelón, varón, pelón.
Ya, cherro.
Enchalo, te adoro, dijeron de concha, Claudia, que chulo,
Pero sabor, segundo.
Moments after the video, me and my brother went to go pick up my tools. Then my brother calls me, and he told me shakingly, "Look behind the forklift." So I look. Keep in mind I'm facing the forklift, and then I see the alien creature. So when I saw it, it was a tall, skinny, lengthy creature. He was a gray, greenish color, and when I looked at it in the eyes, my body just froze. Like the same experience as having sleep paralysis. Keep in mind I'm staring at him and I look at his whole body and he has a weird looking feet and a big face and eyes and you can see a big mouth.
So what I wanted to say, since we can't talk when the video plays, the arrow was pointing to an eye that was being obscured, and then the other eye was bulging out and shiny, and then it showed the huge mouth. And it was supposedly inside the forklift, so you only saw the head sticking out to the side. It's not a very good piece of clip, but that is from the original news clip.
So what does chat think? Can they give us an idea of what they think? Because this show's actually for them too, or these interviews are for them.
Right.
I'm seeing a few things here, but mostly they can't understand what they're saying, and I get that. But
Susan, if you rewatch it on the channel, it does have closed captioning, and the closed captioning is translated from Spanish to English.
But you think I'd like to ask your chat because I'm not seeing much response. Do they think this is legit? Do they think it's a hoax? Do they think there's more here? Do they, like, a lot of people criticize the boy for reading, but you're talking about a kid who's probably about 18 years old, give or take. He's never been on Fox News before. That's like throwing him to the wolves, for God's sakes. It's not like going on a podcast with 200 listeners, right? He's on Fox with like 10 million people listening. He doesn't want to screw this up. His family's like, if you go on, you got to make sure you know what you're saying. So they probably wrote it down for him, to say, keep to this. I'm not gonna jump on him for reading off of that, because I think it took a lot of courage, right, in the first place. But what he's saying, it's pretty intense. And then to back it up with something odd in the back. Now, if that was a person or a human being, let's say, or an animal or whatever, it certainly wouldn't appear that way, right? That looked very different. So then you got the 40 minutes later, you've got this, what some people are saying is a meteor, which it very could have been. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. But there seems to be an awful lot of activity around these people's home that went on for a lot longer than they want us to believe, I think, or the way they deliver it. I mean, I would like to get some clarification on how long after the original 911 call, did that streak through the air.
That green light. Yeah, that would be good. I have reached out to Angel on his channel, which is Alien Society 51. If anybody wants to check it out, he has the one original video of his testimony on there, which is exceeding over 1 million views at this point. But I have reached out to him for an interview on this channel, and if we can get him on, we are going to ask him some questions and see what he has to say and treat him with the respect that he deserves, because this is a groundbreaking event for the United States. It's kind of like the Virginia Brazil event. in
And
the
I-
U.S.
And I think I was one of the few people that didn't attack him on the news either.
Right.
So, I think it would be fantastic to have him on. I really like to hear from him, without a script, just talk from the heart and let me know what you think, because I understand nobody knows better than me, how hard that can be, to
It just
Right.
wasn't like a campfire, story.
chat.
Like,
Happy
"Man,
hour."
it's
Right.
just so big, and it
Right.
just seemed very genuine, even if it was in another language that you can't understand. Just the way, the tone of how they were talking.
Okay, I want to say one thing here, different subject. I want to say welcome back from Spruce Pine UFO Expo, Tom Reed and
Thank
Rhiannon
you.
Alley. Really
Thank you very much.
appreciate you representing. I hear that you've got some new venues that you want to talk about. Briefly, can you mention some of the areas that you're going to have UFO Expo at?
Well, it's just all being discussed right now. So nothing's really in concrete, but I will give a hint. It looks like we're going to have some other UFO expos internationally in the
Well,
making. We have a lot of work to do, but
we can mention it, right? Go ahead and
a
mention it.
huge year.
No, go ahead and mention it.
Well, we're thinking about Puerto Rico.
We were offered Puerto
Yep.
Rico.
Yep. We
So
just gotta
Puerto
get
Rico,
together.
Roswell, North Carolina. What's the other one?
Homestead,
Miami,
Florida.
Coral Castle.
We
Right.
may
So,
be going to upstate New York,
oh, that's right,
maybe
Albany.
October of this year.
Mhm.
So
So
we
quite
just
a
got
few.
back from Spruce Pine. So Tom and I we're just tired. We've
Yeah,
been running
exhausted.
hard, and we just need a little time to
Not as tired as I
decompress.
used to be. I think I was like kind of stressed the last couple of
Speak for
months.
yourself.
Tim, do you think I was a little stressed, Tim?
No, not one bit.
I was. Yeah, much more relaxed now. I got a lot of it behind us, and
Gotta
Yeah,
say,
we-
Tom and Rhiannon worked their butts off to present a very good show at UFO Expo, show credibility, and bring quality guests. So if you get a chance to go to any of the UFO Expos, please do. Get your tickets early, get your hotel rooms and flights scheduled, and get there and meet Tom Reed, meet Rhiannon Alley, and perhaps someday even meet me. So please do that. I want to ask Tom and Rhiannon if they have any last thoughts.
ladies first.
Oh, last thoughts. I'm sorry. I'm thinking about my bed.
I'm
That's my last thought.
making dinner after this.
No, we're just super grateful, and we just came off of. I just went to Costa Rica for like 2 weeks filming, balls to the walls, and then came back, got ready to meet Tom and Mike Barron, everybody out in Spruce Pine, got geared up for that, and I'm just beat up, so I'm like ready for some downtime, but we are going to get everything in motion, Tom, about dates, places, more announcements to come. But the people loved us in Spruce Pine. I mean, the restaurants, they thanked us for
That was a
bringing
huge turnout.
patrons.
It was massive.
The
It was bigger than
hotel,
Roswell.
everybody was appreciative. And this is what we wanted to do. We wanted to help towns get back on their feet.
And we did it for free. We did it for free.
Yes.
Right.
You
That
know?
was cool.
So
Anyways, I want to see. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say thanks for putting up with me the last 3 months. You
Well,
know,
first off, you're my friend, and you're my friend first off and foremost. You're also my co-host. So
my God.
there
it
you
was
go.
Non-stop, man. Right? The phone wouldn't stop. The paperwork wouldn't stop. Bills weren't getting paid.
Riley,
Oh my
send
God, it
you
was
in the room.
unbelievable. But
Well, anyways,
glad to be
thanks.
back.
Thanks to everybody online for putting up with us and putting up with the differences in co-hosts. I mean, we switched days recently from Saturday to Wednesday, so we hope it's working out for everyone. And we got some very interesting guests coming up. So keep watching for those postings and set your notification bell so that you're alerted to when we go live. And from all of us on the panel, we want to say good night, and we'll see you next Wednesday.
Good night,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Right.
Good night.